In this video, we're going to teach you how to take care of an ant colony, whether you caught one, bought one, or caught a queen ant and raised her in a test tube setup until she got her first workers.
So, if you bought or caught an ant colony, make sure it has a queen in it, because the colony will die out without their queen. Because the queen lays eggs to keep the colony going. If you want to know how to take care of queen ants, we've left the link of a video in the description where we teach how to catch them and how to take care of them. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start with what to do with a queen ant who's just got her first workers. Later in this video, we'll get to what to do with a newly caught ant colony or a newly arrived ant colony that you bought. The video we made about how to take care of queen ants, we said in it that you should keep your queens in the dark. Now, if you bought a queen, make sure the queen that you bought lives in your area. You can do some search, you can search it up and find out if it lives in your area. So once your queen gets her first workers, then you can take her out of the dark and put her on a desk. But you have to still make sure that she is in a darkened spot. Once your queen has got her first workers, you can check on them more often. You can start feeding them after they got their first workers. You can tell if they're hungry when you see the ants pulling on the cotton. You can feed them a little bit of honey, or a little bit of sugar water, or a little bit of honey water, or some little cricket leg or earwig leg, something like that. If you feed them anything but honey, make sure to clean it out afterwards. We like using a little bit of aluminum foil as a tray so that you can just pull the aluminum foil out with a tweezer from the test tube so that the food doesn't mold. But honey does not mold, so honey, it's okay. You can let it until the ants finish.
You can move your new ant colony into a formicarium from 20 to 50 workers, depending on the size of your ants and the size of your formicarium.
There are 3 types of formicariums. One is a hibernest that has built-in tunnels into some plastic, clay, or some pumice, and then it has a glass lid so that the ant can't escape while you can still see them inside. And then there is a digging nest that the ant can make their own tunnels and dig. It usually isn't that big, so you can see the tunnels underground and up against the glass. And then there's also a terrarium, which is usually pretty big, and you probably want to move your ants first in either a hibernest or a digging nest before you move them into a terrarium, because most terrariums are usually big, and it's also harder to see the ants in the terrarium.
Ants need 2 kinds of food. The first is protein, which protein can be provided by giving them dead cockroaches, crickets, or mealworms or superworms, or any really kind of meat. They also need sugar, and sugar can be provided in a sugar water test tube setup, which we will show you how to make. And they can also be provided by honey and aluminum foil.
You also need to provide your ants some water. This is a test tube setup. This is how we like to provide them some water. So we put the water at the bottom of the test tube, then plug it up with a cotton ball, and then connect this to the ants' formicarium so that they can come inside and drink water from the cotton ball. The ants won't drown and the water won't spill out because the cotton ball is holding it. And the cotton ball will soak up the water so that the ants will have the cotton ball to drink from. And one way to provide your ants some sugar is just instead of putting water in this in this right here at the bottom, mix water with sugar and put the sugar water here and plug it up with a pom-pom. It's basically the same thing except it's sugar water test tube. And then you can connect it to their formicarium. Now we'll tell you what to do with a newly caught ant colony. So if you're going to move them into a digging nest, then you can move the ants by dumping them from the container they're in into their digging nest, or you can do it by connecting their container, cutting a hole in it and connecting it with a tube to their digging nest, and scare them with light because they don't like light, and also some vibrations. You can do the same by scaring them with using light and vibrations through a tube from their container into a hybrid nest. And if you have caught a lot of ants, then you can just dump them into a terrarium. It's better to dump them, but you can, if you want, to scare them using light and vibration, then connect a tube from the container to the terrarium. And if you have caught very few ants, then you can move them into a test tube setup. The test tube, you can have a test tube setup and just seal it with a cotton ball. Make sure the cotton ball that you're using to seal it isn't too tight so that the ants inside can get air, but isn't too loose so the ants can escape. It's better to connect their container to the test tube and just scare them with light and vibrations into it, rather than pick them up, the ants one by one, put them into the test tube, because that'll take some time. But if the ants really are stubborn, then maybe you can do that. And if you bought an ant colony, some ant colonies that you buy come in test tube setups, and you probably shouldn't move them out of there because they could be too small for other kinds of formicariums. So you can keep those ones in there. But if they're a bit big for their test tube, or they're shipped in maybe something else, then you can move them into a better formicarium. If you're looking to buy formicariums and other ant materials for ant keeping, you should go to antscanada.com. We'll link it in the description below, and it's the most reliable source of materials for ant keeping that we have found. He sells hybrid nests, digging nests, he calls them ant towers, and he sells test tubes, tweezers, tubes, and many other things such as that, perfect for your ants. He even, in his ant towers and hybrid nests, he even includes a little chamber below them for humidity. And so you can control the amount of humidity you give the ants.
For more interesting stuff, click this video.